Okay, I pressed live. Okay, I'm not sure if it takes a minute, so here, let me also record it here.
And it sounds
Awesome. So, welcome everybody to another episode of Coffee Talk. We are streaming live on YouTube. I'm just doing that for a change instead of Facebook, see if we get a wider audience. And I have Rebecca Chang here with me, special guest for today. Hi, Rebecca.
hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you were available. And today we were going to chat a little bit about the inevitable when you have to face your loved one passing, or, there's lots of people passing at this time in the world, and how to make it easier on everybody in the family, including the person who's choosing that.
That's true. And first, I want to say thank you. When you first asked me, I think late last year, in about October, to be a guest, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready. And I was like, ask me after Maestro. And then this opportunity showed up, and this was right after, my mom passed. And so, it was like, what would you like to talk about? And I'm like, I guess that because the universe arranged it. So it's a topic that I think that can contribute to us all.
Mm-hmm.
So stepping back, I just want to say my relationship with my mom hadn't always been close. In Hong Kong, in the era and the culture we grew up in, my mom was busy doing her thing, and we have someone living with us that's our housekeeper. So that we call our Alma, and she was more of a mother
Hmm.
providing the daily care and concern. And growing up, I was a very aware child. So I used to say I was very cynical from an early age. And that, I would call myself a rebel throughout until even in my 20s. And I remember I was living and working in New York. And when I would come home to the Bay Area where everyone else is, I would do it through 2 weekends so I could catch everybody. But before the last weekend is out, we would have a great big fight because it's like two strong women, it's like butting heads.
Mm.
And what's happened with the last 25 years since I came back was with all the wonderful way showers and access tools, our relationship really changed. When I asked to be just me for myself, not anyone's daughter, female, Chinese, whatever, everything started shifting because I no longer needed to rebel against anything. And and then later on, when I was really practicing more allowance, it got better. So I used to be really afraid of when my mom would pass and how I would deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Died this year at 91. And, there's a few years ago, way before COVID, it was like, I hear, spend more time with your mom. And I'm like, it's like, no, 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 she's okay for at least a while. It's like, how long? It's like at least 1, 2 years. I'm okay. So I just made sure that whenever I'm with her, that I am in allowance and that time is for her. But I was also so afraid of how I would fare and what would happen when she passed. And of course, with access tools, when she starts talking about, well, she's 80 something, and of course her body's falling apart, I'm like, Mom, don't say that. Keep that energy with you. It's like, think of something else. Or, and one day, more than a year ago, thank goodness, she said to me, let me be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, here I am, so strong and choosing and demanding that I have freedom of choice. I wasn't allowing her freedom to choose. So that's when I allowed her. And it was like, okay, whatever, I was saying to myself silently to her, however you choose to live, how you choose to age, and how you choose to be sick is your freedom of choice. And I will support you. and grace you on your path, and even how you choose to die. And at that moment when I did that, all my fears just fell off. And I
Mhm.
really noticed that. And I was at peace. It's like whenever that happens, I just make sure that I spend, moments with my mom. And when I do, it's quality time. So when it actually happened, um, it was okay. I did have some moments. And of course, I cried. And she was discovered in her room. So we weren't quite sure when she actually passed.
Mhm.
But knowing that she actually actively said no resuscitation if I'm in the hospital, that she didn't want to be in the hospital, I knew that that was her choice. And it came days after my sister was able to come up from Southern California, where she hadn't been able to come up because of COVID concerns. And it was 10 days, I think, after Mother's Day. So she saw everyone. And I knew it's her timing, that's her choice.
Yep.
So that really helped.
It's so interesting too. Like, I don't know, my whole life I've always believed in reincarnation. I'm not even sure where I got it, but I remember in like third or fourth grade, I did a report on reincarnation, a school report. And so it's like, this isn't it. It might be it for that body, but this isn't it for the being. And with the tools of talk to the entities that allows you to communicate with the spirits who have crossed over, it's like, it's actually not as big a deal as most people create it being. Like, I get, that person who was your mother in that body, you won't be able to hug that body anymore, but you can still communicate. And a lot of the heaviness around and the heaviness and the sadness around a passing is that you've decided that you're not going to be able to communicate with them. And that's not true. And that's why it feels heavy. So every time you feel them around, if you open to it, it could actually feel really light and really nurturing.
Yeah.
Receiving their energy, their contribution, um, a lot of times they want to comfort you. My dad just passed in November, and
Yes, I remember I was going to ask you how it was for you.
yeah, it was like, well, I knew several years before that he had decided he was done, and then his body started falling apart in various different ways. And my stepmother absolutely did not want to let go, and come to find out that she had never been alone. She had never lived alone, and she didn't want to be alone. So I think they used to joke about when the time came that she wanted to go first because she didn't want to live without him, which is really sweet. But she was more concerned about her and not having him than what he wanted. And he was really funny and had such a great sense of humor. And during the last weeks, he was like, I'm going to call Dr. Kevorkian if I don't feel better tomorrow. And it's like, okay, we know you're done. And she's like, no, he's going to get better. It's like, I think you just have to face it. And it's usually looking at what it's going to be like and being afraid of what it's going to be like instead of being present right now with what you have. And then as things unfold, it's like when you're present and not thinking in the future, there isn't that fear and anxiety. It's only when you're thinking about what it's going to be like and your mind creates all these things.
All the projections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it harder. Once you leap, once you take the step, once they cross, it's like, oh, okay, this is different than I thought.
And I have a story for that if you have a moment.
Yeah.
So, because we didn't find her right away, and we weren't sure when she passed, part of me was like, why didn't I raise the alarm earlier? Because I had called my mom and she didn't call back. But we have such a history of her Like, oh, I fell asleep. And why didn't you call me back the next morning? Oh, I went to exercise. It was like no big deal. So I didn't want to raise the alarm right away. And then um, later on in the day, I started asking, like, do I take action or just continue being patient? And at that moment, I got take action. So that's when I started calling to check her. And so part of me had that, and I consulted with a friend for a session, and it's really to ask questions and things like that. And she said, I do a little bit of mediumship. Would you like me to get a message? I'm like, yes, please. And so before that, she said, like, yeah, they said, don't worry. And actually, when I was checking worriedly during the day, something came out of my mouth. It was like, don't worry. And I thought, oh, okay, that's the universe saying, don't worry. And she said, well, it was true, don't worry, because it's just the body. She had already left. And so it's just the body. There's nothing to worry about. She's fine. And so what turned out was the message was now she gets, well, who I am and what I am about, and she's going to help me. And she said something that we had to figure it out. And she said, put your apron on. And I'm like, she wants me to cook because I don't cook. And it's like, I have to cook now. And it was like, it's figurative. It's like, get cracking, like, get to work. And I've seen, of course, I went to Glastonbury, UK, which is a mystical place with lots of energy. And I did a workshop, um, which changed things. But I notice a change in my life these days. It's like I've got her. We talked about the talk to an entity, or you did, and we both took the turbo at the same time. And earlier in the year, I took the beginning all the way through. It had been on my wish list for a while, and I did the same thing in the beginning of the year. It's like, oh, I've been taking so many classes, maybe the following year, and it was like, no. What I got was invest in yourself now. And I thought, oh, okay. So I signed up for everything. And it was great. And it was great. I knew part of it is, obviously it's for me, but part of it is also as a contribution. And what did I was saying about that? Oh, so we have teammates, and we all have big teams. And so now she's part of my team. And I could perceive that because there's this extra kind of gentle nudging that wasn't there before. It's like, they allow you to choose. So sometimes I just, you know, watch Netflix and all day long and just chill. And, I've gotten to a place where it's okay. It's just that I need the space to
Yeah.
integrate whatever. And I don't make a big thing out of it. It's just okay, rearrange my schedule. So sometimes, something like that or some other thing where I'm still sleeping in bed and in the morning, I would get this like gentle nudge. Oh, I should get up. And it's like, okay. And then I was like, because it's so gentle, I didn't have to resist. I was like, okay. And I know that part of it is my mom.
Yeah. That's nice. That's sweet.
Yeah.
My dad didn't believe in any of that stuff. And I was telling him many, many years ago, my brother was in a motorcycle accident, and I had, God, it must have been 25, 30 years ago. And I had communicated with him, even though I didn't know the tools of talk to the entities. I just communicated with him, and I knew, okay, he's here, he's hanging out. And so I was telling my dad one of the last times I saw him, and I said, listen, you might not believe in this now, but I know because I talked to Jeff when he had passed, and he looked at me like, huh? And I said, I'm just saying, don't haunt me. Don't haunt me. Because he was just always funny and sarcastic. So he was like, he started laughing. And now when he comes around, I'm just like, told you. Told you you're not going to be like gone and that's it. Buried in the ground and that's it. Like, we can still have this fun, playful, sarcastic communication. So funny.
And actually, even this is funny, right? Even this topic and talking about loved ones who passed. And really, it's like, I think our, our purpose of being here in embodiment is to, some people talk about how we forget things when we first came in, because we're in the body. And so it's kind of like rediscovering, but it's the joy that we're here to be, that we are being. That's, if any, somebody says, oh, what's my soul purpose? And it's like, find the joy. That's you. That's the whole thing, the whole journey. It's to rediscover the joy that's part of us, an innate part of us. And so even in the earlier days when I was struggling and there was some really, really bad stuff going on, it would be so funny, and I had at that time really dependent on like the saints and the angels and Mother Mary to help me through. And I would be sitting in the bathroom and I would be having conversation. I was starting to think of something and I would start a conversation and I was like, don't talk to mother, don't talk to mother in the bathroom. And then in one of these other modality that also helped me through my journey, they had this kind of like visual imagery, and where you were in this place and you did this thing, and at the end they give you a gift. And so I'm here seeing what the gift is, and it was like the stage, and there's these spotlights on the stage, and there's this something there. And as it got closer, what I saw was a pristine toilet, white, shiny. It was just so funny. So it's all about having a laugh. Anyway, I guess that needed to come out. Bathroom humor.
That's funny. Yeah. So I wonder if anybody watching has any questions. You were talking about having allowance, and that's one of the hard things to really be. Like, you can say interesting point of view, but being it is a totally different story. Do you want to talk about how like you built that?
Sure, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, Gary and Dave would say, be interesting point of view. It's like, interesting point of view, you have this point of view, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. And I would go around saying that. But actually, for many years, it was from actually a place of superiority, I think. I would say, well, I totally disagree, right? Thinking, and so I would say, well, interesting point of view. You have this point of view, and I'm adding that interesting point of view. I have this point of view just to be, to be fair or to be, open. And just like a year and a half ago, I stood on the podium asking Gary a question in a dance body class, and I said that interesting point. Well, I do the interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. At this point of view, interesting point of view. I have this point of view, and he looked at me and he said, "You don't just say it; you have to be it." And I'm like, and after that, I noticed that they were stressing that in some of the other telecalls. So I was like, okay, maybe I made a contribution. But um, somehow I didn't know this third part that showed up then, which was the third sentence is interesting point of view. I have this point of view of your point of view. And that really helped me get to be in the space of interesting point of view. So that's my experience.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's all right. And with that example of my mom's, when I finally realized I was pushing my point of view at her,
Mm.
and I stepped back and it allowed me to be that for almost everyone else. I say almost, but because you never know. Um, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm getting there faster and with more ease, I would say. How about for you?
Yeah, it's funny because the more interesting point of view you are, sometimes people think, do you care about anything? And yeah, but I'm choosing what I want to choose, and you can choose whatever you want to choose. You like to struggle and have a really hard time? Okay, have fun with that.
It's like the universe. I tell people sometimes it's like the universe loves us and supports us. So whatever you ask, you're going to receive. So if you ask for something that is really not a contribution to your life and living that you would cognitively choose, right? And could be even the opposite. The universe is saying, "Are you sure?" And then if you repeat it, then they say, "Okay, we love you. We support whatever choice you're making. Here it is." So if we say, "Oh, like my life is limited because this is how it is," they'll say, "Are you sure?" It's like, "Okay, here you go. We love you and we support you."
Yeah, and all you have to do is be like, okay, I'm done with this. Let's have something else.
Yeah.
I'd like something else, please.
Yeah, nowadays it's like, I don't know, like new doors are open, new possibilities are here that wasn't here before. So like, thank you, like show me and give me more. I'm choosing all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. So in that case, that's my, if you would, if you find a better way of expressing it, let me know. It's like a safety net. It's like, okay, I'm choosing this. And I know, like, with my cancer experience, it allowed me to really free up a lot of poop. And, then I used to say, okay, thank you. I see the gift in it, behind it, or underneath it. But like next time, I'm going to ask to experience that, but with more ease, more joy, and more glory. Like there must be other ways of achieving the same or similar without having to go through you know, some of the less enjoyable experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I did ask for joy in everything I do. So actually, I like to tell people, even in the radiation therapy, there was this big, huge. What I found out afterwards was a Costco bear. Costco, you know, the the, the membership
Mm-hmm.
low price store. It's a 53-inch bear. And I love the bottom of the bear because they have that detail, and I would tickle the feet. And one day the hospital bed thing was down, the railing was down. So I was like hugging it, trying to take a selfie. And the technician came out and said, "Would you like me to take pictures?" I had these cute pictures and I looked so great. My hair was just starting to grow back from chemo. And apparently, I have a nice shaped skull because I got so much attention and compliments during that time. And even I live in a condo building, so I was in the elevator one day, and this Chinese guy came in, younger guy, right? And he said, "Oh, have you, did you just move in?" And I'm like, "No, I've been here for a while." "Oh, I never saw you before," and I thought, I think you just don't notice.
I
And
just
I
look
reckon,
different.
yeah, and I recognize having that like little stubble coming out just short is very edgy to a lot of people, so they notice you. So I was having fun with my hair also. Yeah.
It's amazing how the body is so um, changeable. Like it can go through that and then be generative again.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a way, I did face my own death, during that time and choosing to live. And yet it seemed for a long time, I was like saying, I choose to live, I choose to live. And I would meet someone who's intuitive and we'd be talking and they say, "I hope you don't mind my saying it, but I get that we haven't decided yet to live or to stay or leave the planet."
Oh,
I was so upset because it's like, what do you mean? I'm choosing to live. And then in one of the sessions that I had seeked out with someone, we looked at something that was so hidden and so compacted. He said it's like a black hole, and that you can't find it. But we asked the question, "Does it exist?" And we got a yes. And we each asked questions to see what it was, and it was something that I called what was it? It it's not this word, but it's like unforgivable.
mm,
No redemption.
mm,
And the other one was extreme grief. So apparently, in some life back, galactic past, I did something terrible, which was revealed to me as part of like a journey story. And it was like, that's so silly. That's totally not even on this earth, and it's not totally me. It's not me. I haven't chosen that. That was that whatever alien person.
Mhm.
And so, recognizing how silly it was, it just allowed everything to be kind of put back into perspective. And then everything was changed. And I went to Maestro, my first Maestro, and I had delayed my radiation therapy for it. And I was just so glad because I went up and asked that question. Um, and Dane said, "Truth, is it yours?" And I'm like, "Yes." It's like, "Of course it's mine." And he just kind of looked at. He goes like, "Huh, huh. Oh, I get it. It's a VVR of a VVR of a VVR. It's virtual reality of a virtual reality of a virtual reality." And then he just did some simple clearing about all the virtual realities. And I felt my heart open for the first time. And I knew, it was like, okay, this is done. The story is now a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is.
It's amazing how, like, with the access tools, you can have access to things that you're not even aware of that are limiting you.
Yeah.
Like, we have no idea. But with as you build your awareness, you can see other people and what's limiting them. But like, we have stuff too. So it's just really cool. I was asking myself something last week. I was like, wow, how did I create this whatever thing? And just asking the question and allowing the awareness to come, and like this avalanche of awareness flowed in, and it's like, wow, how amazing that we can use these tools to uncover. Sorry, I'm getting messages and it's dinging. um, to uncover things that we're not aware of, that we're being at the effect of, because somehow, somewhere, we chose it,
Mhm.
and we cut our awareness off to it for whatever reason.
And I just love also, it's great to be aware of it. Um, but nowadays, it's not even necessary anymore. It's just like anywhere in any lifetime that I ever did, to allow this to show up, destroy and uncreate it and zap it with the access clearing. And boom, it's because it's that favorite question for a while was, truth, is it relevant? Whatever the story was. And so, yeah, I just am so grateful to access. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful to you, Julie. I'm still telling some people the way you taught your daughter how to expand out, because that whole expanding exercise to me was like kind of slow. Like, feel the boundaries of the walls of where you live and then go up. And you said, imagine your toes dipping into the sand of the sea of Cape Cod, the warm sand, and then your arms stretching out to like somewhere halfway in the world. For me, it's like Mount Fuji or the Alps. And then this third part I just love, and just have your hair fly out to the Milky Way. And boom, I'm out there in space, and I just love it. So grateful to you for
Oh,
everything,
that's cool.
including that. Yeah,
Thanks. That's sweet. And we're at the end of our 30 minutes.
I know. Went by
That was
fast.
fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining. And hopefully, this was a contribution to whoever was watching and people in the future.
Yeah, yes, that was the intention, whatever
And
it is. And
yeah,
it's not meant to be like you should be experiencing it this way. It's just sharing what what happened to me and what tools got me where I was or where I am. So
yeah.
thank you.
All right. Have
Yeah.
a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are, and see you next week.